So Map of the Money is one of the several side projects that I'm doing. And the goal of that one is helping entrepreneurs to find investors. Because what we believe is the main work as an entrepreneur is to build your product and talk to your customer. Fundraising should be something happen quickly and in a good way if possible. So this is just a representation of our previous version of our website. So I think first, before talking about fundraising, one of the best ways for entrepreneurs to get money is to talk to your customers, is to make money from your customers. So those entrepreneurs are some of the examples here in the region of people who have get good traction or also get exits without almost raising any amount of money, right? So the first one, if you look at it, is Royston. He's a Singaporean person. He built a company called Zopim, and he got acquired by Zendesk. He barely raised any money. He's only bootstrapping and get money from his customer, right? When you look at 123F, interesting company in Malaysia, started in 2000, right? In 2000, the ecosystem in the region was very tiny. They tried at one point to raise money, but there wasn't that much money around. They built a company. They have 250 people now across Malaysia and Indonesia mostly. And they got, even if they acquire companies that have been previously acquired by Autodesk. So you can get pretty good traction. You don't actually need to raise money all the time. If you look at Olivier Berthier, the CEO of Monitor, he's having massive customers like DBS or Orange Bank in France without raising any money. He already had been entrepreneur before, sold the company, but his way is going right. I don't know if you heard about Erwan Massé, the founder of Bits Media. I think this is the most unknown story of the Singapore startup ecosystem. So Erwan was working at Google, started to build a few businesses, try to see what works, what doesn't work. And he built this app called Muslim Pro. And he got like 40 million downloads out of a small team of 7, 8 people before being acquired for 2-digit in million. He barely raised any money. So this guy may own 95% of this company at the time of the exits, and you get 2-digit million, which means it's pretty good money. I know a lot of stories of founders and putting way less money in their pocket than what Erwan did. And when you look at the last one, Villa Finder, if you want to book a villa in Bali, those guys have a team of like around 20 people now. They're across 4 countries. They never raise money. So it's possible to build businesses without raising money. It's definitely doable in the region. So these are some examples about how you can think about that. This is done by one of the VC firms in Europe called Pont9. And they describe like 8 different ways to build a 100 million business. A very interesting one is the well one, is like having customer willing to pay 10 million. I think he's mentioned in his blog post, he only know one example, and this is more what Peter Thiel with Palantir, very special. But then you can also decide to have 100 million of customer paying $1 per year. So this is another possibility that you can get, right? And just to finish on the bootstrapping part is, what is the best for you as a startup is getting those guys as customer. This is the best thing you can get, right? So I just give like a few examples of startups. Like if you look at Sphero, they partner with Star Wars and they did this little robot, right? You look at Algolia, they just get Twitch as a customer. Spotify, they've raised money from Coca-Cola, but they also did partnership with Coke. And Priz, they get access to the supplier on Orange. So you can tap into corporate for their customer, for their money, and for their suppliers, for example. So these are some examples of all those people that work around that. And this is also a good way for you to grow your business, right? So when we talk about fundraising, I think for me, this is the best image, is you are the pilot in a Formula One. Formula One is your startup, right? And what is the goal in Formula One is to spend as less as possible time when you need to do the pit stop to put more fuel in your engine, right? This is not the core of your business. It's not the core of your skills. But you also need to get a team, and you need to be ready, and you need to do that fast, and then move on, right? Don't try to spend too much time there. A lot of entrepreneurs may feel it's just a question of few months. Usually, it may take you more 3 to 6 months to raise a round. So be cautious about the time you will need and how much prepared you need to be. A lot of entrepreneurs may feel like raising fund is success, right? Let me share some stories of those guys. So some of them in the US, some of them are more like in Singapore. And if you look at how much they've raised, if you look at the first one, it's 1.4 billion, right? And you look at the second one is Juicero, right? 400 million. Or Piet3D, they did a pretty good pre-sales, right? Or Bubbly in Singapore also. And most of them also raise money from very well-known VCs, right? So we got a good blog post from Google Ventures saying why they invested in Theranos. I still need to figure out where is a blog post about why they invested in Juicero. So mistakes happen, right? And usually it's because of a lack of due diligence for some of them. So this is just to remind you, it's not because you have raised money from those top VCs or you have raised a large amount of VCs that you are done and you are successful. It's only the beginning, and it's back to the Formula One image, like you just refuel your tank and you need to move on. So this is not the main thing. Here is the worst slide that you will see from me today. It's way too much information, but please just take a picture and you can read it later. So just to show, like, it's a lot of different sources of capital when you're looking to funding. So as I mentioned before, I think the best one is still your customers. But then depending on which stage you are, you get different type of investors. And here I put for Southeast Asia a range of how much money you can expect from those people and what else you can expect. So it's like way more criteria you can look after. So please pick your own criteria and benchmark them, right? So initially, if you just start your business and you raise money from family and friends, this money will come first. It's called love money. Usually, it's just because they know you. They don't really know your business. But here, you need also to do a lot of education because those investors may expect you 6 months later, hey, I need my 10K. Can you give me back the money? And you're like, I already spent it, so I can't really return you that amount of money. So you need to give information to those guys about what does it mean investing. It's not a loan. You're not able to return the money at any time they need it, those kind of things. So that money is usually money and doesn't bring that much value on top of it. You can look at a grant. Grant could be a good system because you don't give away equity. So this is a good way for you. Angels start to become a bit more interesting if you pick up the right people. So then those people can also bring some value, can help you to raise more money later. Some of them are very strong brands. So for example, if you get money from Koh Bonui in Singapore, this comes with like a good branding. You get a lot of other angels where they don't necessarily any branding. Accelerator, so some of them will take equity, some of them will don't take equity. The very good image for Accelerator is those guys are here to give you like kind of an MBA for an entrepreneur. So it means you have started a few months ago, like an MBA, you have a few years of working experience, and then you go for a short period of time when you will get a lot of support, a lot of hands-on from those people for a short period of time, and then you will go for demo day and raising more money, hopefully. Some of them sometimes don't take any equity. You get, for example, Spark in Thailand, they don't take any equity. So this could be a good deal also for you guys. ICO, I think, is the one that everyone talk about. It looks like a lot of money, especially the last few months, where basically some of those startups just have an MVP, write a big white paper, and say they will do amazing stuff and may get a few millions, if not more. A lot of them are failing just to raise that money, and I will give you later a better example, I think, of how an ICO could be done. Crowdfunding and crowd equity are also other systems that you can consider, closer to family and friends in some way because those don't bring that much except the money. And venture capital will go a little bit deeper in that one. I think it's the usual one. I put up to 50 million in the region because there's not that many other people who can cut check above that number in Southeast Asia. And then now even if you get like, for example, DBS looking to do loan, you get some guys looking to do some debt venture also. Corporate VC, so this comes as VC have a string attached, so you need to understand why you're bringing those corporate with you and what value they can bring. So for the corporate, my tip is look at what are the assets of the corporate. Meaning if you're Spotify, don't think at Coke as a beverage company, think at them as the biggest logistic company in the world because they have more truck to deliver their beverage than UPS, DHL, and FedEx together. So look at corporate in that way, and then see how can you leverage those assets and how maybe you can get some money. Be careful. I know example of corporate where the corporate fund have invested in one startup, and the corporates are using the competitor for their services. So it doesn't mean if you get money from them that they necessarily use you. So you need to be careful, and how can you be sure those kind of things happen. Family offices is something we start to see more and more also in Southeast Asia. Investment bank like Goldman Sachs are also coming in some deals in the region, as well as private equity like KKR, for example. So this is going for large check. And even if the government is looking also to put money in some startups in a region. So first, I just want to give you briefly to learn a bit more about how a VC work, right? So first, you need to get a sense about who are the limited partners. So this is not an easy information to get, but limited partner means who are the boss of your boss, right? So who are the people who have put money in the fund? So if you look at a fund, like say like Golden Gate Ventures, they have raised money from several corporates. And then you need to try to get a sense about who are those guys, because then you get a sense also about how can you leverage those kind of connection. The GPs or general partners are the 2, 3, 4 people who are running the fund. Usually they're the one who makes the decision about getting the deal with you guys or not. In bigger fund, it could be sometimes the partner making that kind of decision too. Investment thesis. So this is interesting is what VC sometimes will put on their website and say, this is kind of thing we're looking to invest. We're looking to invest in this country, in that industry, in that kind of businesses. So this is what they say they will do. But what they do is called the portfolio. So the more interesting part to look at is not the investment thesis is very easy to read because they tell you like, oh, I only do SaaS companies, Series A, etc. The better is to know what they're really doing and look at the portfolio and look at which deals they have done. So usually on their website, most of the VC will disclose what are their portfolio companies, or you can go to Crunchbase or some other platform to get a sense about what are the portfolio. Also give you a sense if they've just invest in your competitor, right? Also be careful, not all the portfolio company will be there. Some deals are kept secret, most time because the founder don't want to disclose it. So it's not everything, is part of it, but usually is the biggest part of it. Capital call, so it means like when a VC raise fund, you don't get all the money immediately. He will call the capital, and then sometimes they may decide to invest by batch. So give you a sense about do they have money or not. What they call first close is when you raise, let's say, a 50 million fund, you may do a first close at like 30 million. So when they announce first close, it means a part of the 30 million is in the bank, and they need to deploy that money. So if you go to a VC at the time they announce first close or final close, usually it's so many around. They may have like put some deals on the side to be done, but it's a time they'll be pretty active. Something I didn't put here is the vintage also. So if a fund is more than 5 years old, it's pretty sure there is no more money. So usually most of the money will be deployed the first 2 to 4 years. So if the fund is 2 to 4 years old, is the time you should talk to them. If there is older than that, usually they keep the money for follow-on investment and they may don't do investments. But sometimes there's exceptions. Some funds are able to recycle, so meaning if they get an early exit and they get money back, they can decide instead of giving that money back to the LPs to reinvest that money. So if you know that a VC get a big exit, let's say your company got acquired by a larger company or one of the portfolio companies just did IPO, it's possible that in the next few months they have some money coming back and they may be looking to deploy that money again. Carried interest is where most of VC make their money, is the 20%. They will make usually roughly on top of the money they will give it back after they give back the 100 initial millions to the LPs. Management fees is a 2% amount of money that they get every year to be able to sustain their fund. Then you need to get a sense of their strategy, right? So strategic investors usually are more like corporate, meaning when they do a deal with you, what they look after is what value you bring on top of what kind of business they're doing. VCs usually don't do that kind of deals. They will look at financial deals. They just make the deals to make money. So think about that. If a VC don't want to invest in your company, doesn't mean your company is not good. It means maybe everything is perfect, except they don't think that this will be 10 times, 30 times, 50 times bigger in the next few years. So they just look at financial return. You can just build a very good, what people will call like a lifestyle business, so SME. It just is not a fit for VCs. So this is something happen. And a lot of corporate, in fact, are not only strategic, but they're also financial because they need to be self-sustainable. So this is what most of the corporate will look at. So this is a quick mapping to give you a sense of the stage of the ecosystem. So you get a lot of accelerator, incubator, and then a lot of seed investors. Even if Series A, Series B, you start to get a significant amount of investors in the region, the change will be more at the growth stage and Series C. This will be the change. So here it's just like, I just bundled them by check size. And based on the check size, I put them more or less in a round. But it's not necessarily like that simple. So the challenge is how do you navigate all those guys to get a sense about who you should talk to. So this is why we built that website called Map of the Money. It's free. It's a visual way for you to look after it. And as you can see around in red, we started to launch some filters. So those filters are helping you to select based on the quality of the data, but also at which stage and which kind of investors. So you can select, I'm looking to raise my seed rounds, and I want only VCs, or I want only what we call like super angels, meaning angels who are doing a lot of deals, right? And then automatically the website will narrow down to the group of investors that you can look after. For each of them, you get access directly to their website if you click on it. And when you see some dark blue, it's because we verify the data with themselves, and the dark blue give you a sense about where they do 50% of their deals. So most of the deals are there. So this is a sweet spot based on what they did in the past. Doesn't mean they do exactly the same in the future, but may don't change in a crazy way. So this gives you a sense when you talk to those VCs, how much money you can talk to them. So if the VC is used to do check between 25 and 290K, there's no point to go and say, hey, I'm raising 5 million, can you put $1 million in my deal? It's pretty unlikely to happen. They can always make exception, but if you talk to every VC and you ask all of them to make an exception, it's pretty unlikely to happen. So this is helping entrepreneurs to get a sense about what amount they should talk to each VCs to be sure they're raising the right amount of money. Here, to give you a sense, we are not listing all the VC. We're listing 113 of them, the ones who are really active in Singapore. And by definition, if they're active in Singapore, they're also active for most of them in Southeast Asia. What we recommend you here is to get a list of like 30, 40 VCs. If you get 30 to 40 VCs, you need to look at each of them. So basically, what I recommend is like then you build an Excel spreadsheet, you put your 30, 40 names, you get a sense about why they will invest in you. So based on the investment thesis or their portfolio, is it a match, right? And then you also need to look after if they still have money, what are the other similar deals they have done, how much money they usually invest. So you get that information here. What is the size of the fund? Getting a sense about how much money are you asking for them to raise, right? And then you will get those 40, and you will need to make some priority between those guys. So I recommend you to talk maybe the first 3, not the top 1. Just select 3 that maybe, I don't know, between 10 to 15 in your ranking. Talk to them, get a sense about which kind of question they're asking you, and then go to the top ones, right? And try to always get a lot of them at the same time speaking to hopefully, out of 30, 40, you will convert 3 or 4 of them helping you to raise your rounds. Don't expect necessarily to find all of them here because it can always be tailor-made. There's always an exception about it could be a corporate or it could be an angel looking to get a large check or never have done a deal before, right? Here, we're here to just help for the heavy lifting and helping you to get the main people into your rounds. And then you may need to do some additional work to add like a few more people, right? So this is the tiniest slide, definitely. But I really encourage you to look at that, even if you're not a SaaS company. So this is also done by Point9 in Germany. So what they do, you just look, they call that napkin. So it's a SaaS funding napkin. So you get the one for 2016 and 17 year. It launched the 2018 also, but there's way less details on it. But basically what is very interesting is it gives you a sense about what are the requirements for an investor to invest in a company at different stages for SaaS businesses. So it gives you a sense what should be your annual recurring revenue. It gives you a sense about how strong should be your team. Should you already have a VP of sales or not? It gives you a sense about which stage should be your product and all those kind of things. So this is SaaS, right? It's done like almost globally, but it gives you a sense about some milestone you should have reached to get a specific stage. So it will be very different for you if you're a different industry, but roughly I think it's helpful to give you a sense about where you should go. So this is something also very interesting is getting a sense about which selection criteria VCs are using, right? So yeah, just put some examples. So FG Labs, they're based in the US. They do mostly marketplace. And what they do is, yeah, I got a bug here. They do marketplace, and they usually do US, Germany, Brazil, India. They don't have done Southeast Asia because they look at big markets. So if you have marketplace and you are in Indonesia, pitch them. The founder of that fund have sold OLX to Naspers, so he's a pretty solid guy in marketplace. So basically, they look at 9 things. They look at, you need to be a billion potential value of your business on the long term. They look at your business model. They look at your unit economics. So here you may look at cost of acquisition, long-term value, those kind of numbers. It will look at you as you can be a leader in your markets. You need that to be scalable and capital efficient. In a growing market, you're also very interested about no disintermediation. You want to be sure if you're screwing someone, it's not someone else coming and screwing you later. So it's kind of you're the last one. The one is overriding is about your knowledge about building that kind of company and the quality of the team. And they usually invest around 400K. If you look at 500 giants in Southeast Asia, they have a slightly shorter list. Is they look at mostly 5 things, but then you get under subcategories who may cut, again, the same thing that FG Labs. So you look at the founder and team. So this is a very important one, especially when you're at seed stage. So those investors are mostly doing seed Series A. You look at the market side, the growth and traction, business model, and the valuation. Because valuation is very important because you're a financial investor. So you want to be sure you're not paying too much for what you're getting in. But just a few days ago, a very interesting one launched by NFX. So this is a US-based VC. They call that a ladder. So basically, it's more or less in a specific order, but they list a lot of good points, right? But for example, all the one in red for them are the key ones. So it's like the growth. Are you growing fast? Do you have paying customers? Do you have a new, fresh, good ID? Or do you have a great team? So also those guys are doing early stage, right? If you go in later stage, you will look way more after the numbers, right? If you look at the seed stage, you are more here to tell a story. Series A, you tell a story and you get some data points. Series B is almost only about numbers. So it's not anymore you argue against the VC if it will work. A number will tell the truth, except if you are Terranos and you're showing slightly different number than what is reality, right? So NFX, I invite you to look at typing some of those words and look at the list that I've done in the blog post. It's a pretty good sense to get a sense about which kind of criteria will be used to evaluate your business. Something very important is it's never too early to start for you to network with a VC, right? So today at the conference, everyone with a yellow band is VC or corporate. So basically people with money, and if they don't have money on the corporate side, they're potential customers. So just try to grab as much as yellow as possible if you're looking to raise fund here. Because even if it's too early, what happened is this is the first time they met you, right? And then they get an idea about who you are, what you're doing, what you're planning to do. But then they met you several times. And then what happened, usually they try to meet you 3, 4 times. And they get a sense about where you're going. Is it going up? Is it going down? So this is what people expect. But the reality, in fact, is more like that, right? It's more the last one. It's like it's going OK, then it goes down, something happened, then it's going OK again. And this is that is from a blog post from Mark Susser saying the investor invests in lines, not dots. And he says the last one is a concrete example in a company you have invested in. So the first two are theory. The third one is how it works in reality. And you have done that kind of investment. So you need to talk to people. And I can tell you it's very interesting. Like I've helped like few entrepreneurs to raise funds. And when you say like, oh, they're raising funds, get good traction, VCs don't really reply much. And then we're like, hey, they just received a term sheet from a leading investors in Europe, or they're oversubscribed, then everyone starts to reply, right? You get a massive fear of missing. But ideally, to go faster than that is, how can you build a relationship and people see you growing, and then they really want to be in a deal. And then it's a good way, because you need to remember that you are the one selling. So you're here to sell some part of your business to investors, and they're there to buy. So this kind of relationship will happen over time. It's the same thing. When you look at an exit for a startup, it doesn't happen in 3 months or overnight. Usually a lot of stories, if you look at GitHub and Microsoft, it started by GitHub wanting to do a partnership with Microsoft. And then Microsoft was like, not bad. Why not we buy you, I think 36 times your revenue. So something quite crazy. But this didn't have started like, hey, Microsoft, do you want to buy us? No, let's do a partnership. They didn't think about getting acquired at that time. But usually it's more working that way to get acquired by corporate. It's more about having a relationship for a while. So I want to share like an interesting story about a company in Thailand called Omise. And what I feel interesting is we talk a lot about ICO, but what those guys did, I think they did in a pretty smart way. So basically they've raised fund from famous VCs in the region like East Ventures, 500, Golden Gate, but they also bring some corporates like True Incubi, which is like CP Group, Cinemas, Ascend, which is also back to CP Group. And then they did the ICO. They did a 25 million ICO. And just after the ICO, they announced that a bank was also investing in their company. So what is interesting is, before and after the ICO, they put like very legit investors. And if you have done an ICO and you're raising money from a bank, or at least announcing that a bank have done after, the bank may need to do a lot of due diligence on the deal. They need to be sure about everything is clean. So this sends a good signal. And what is very interesting here is something I think you need to think about, and I didn't mention before, is when you talk to an investor is, do you think about how the investors can be helpful to you, right? So this is the same example. If you're Omise and you raise from East Ventures, what you can expect is East may be able to help you in Indonesia because they have a very strong network. They have invested also in several unicorns in Indonesia, but also very strong in Japan. If you look at 500 startup, may bring more like a global network. If you look at CP Group, through NQB, CP Group, they have a massive network in Thailand, and they have a lot of connection also with China. Cinemas, you get, again, another large conglomerate. Golden Gate is also offering connection in the US. Ascent Money is pretty good if you want to do things with Ant Financial, because Ant Financial I also invest in. And Ant Financial is also Alibaba. So you get those kind of links, right? The ICO, this was in January, was 2.5 billion market cap, right? These days, more around like $1 billion now. And when you look at the last one, is you get a financial bank also to invest in your company. So as an entrepreneur, when you look at those investors, don't look only at the money, look at the smart money, get a sense what you can get from there. And the best way to know that is not necessarily listening to them about what they will telling you they will do. Talk to their portfolio company. Talk to them and ask them how helpful they have been with them, which kind of support they get from the investors. And then you get a sense about what you can get on top of the money. ICO usually is dumb money. It's just like you get cash, but you don't get that much support. How do you want to engage with like 2,000 or 5,000 people? How those guys could be helpful to you? Not that easy. Do you want to do a board meeting with 5,000 people? It will be very difficult, right, to be sure everyone can talk, ask the question, etc., right? So I think ICO are not necessarily here to completely kill VCs. I think they will just remove the bad one, the one who don't bring that much value. So you need to focus when you look at raising, what are the VCs who can bring value, who can bring support, who can be helpful to you? Some of them could be just a brand, right? You can think about if you raise from Sequoia, even if they're very supportive, is you have raised from Sequoia. So then it makes your life easier for recruiting, and make your life easier when you go to any countries. People know about Sequoia Capital, at least in the VC and startup scene. So this is a very good example of step-by-step by Kevin Ryan. It's a pretty good blog post done by First Round, top VC in the US. So Kevin Ryan is not very well known, but this guy is a founder and chairman of MongoDB, which is a unicorn. He has been also founder and chairman of Guild Group, which is a marketplace company, e-commerce, who got at one point $1 billion valuation. And he's also the founder of Business Insider, which is sold for $500 million to Axel Springer, the same guy. And he was at one point doing the three companies at the same time. He's based in New York. And he has raised more than $750 million across those ventures. So this is few points he mentioned. You need to line up your meeting, is what I mentioned. Like get your 40 investors, potential investor list, and go on a roadshow and meet all of them. Timing also very important. You need to keep them interested until the end. So the good point here, I will say, is like dating, but you can date several times at the same time, several people at the same time, and tell to everyone they are your favorite one, right? Everyone wants to feel special, so you want all those guys to feel special and think that they will get the deal. But what you want at the end is you have 5-7 term sheet, and it could be the one selecting the 3-4 that you really like. So keep this quite open for you. A lot of people just think like, oh, I've already 3 is fine, but if one drop at the last minute, then you are screwed. So try to get slightly more offer, being sure you can make the selection. Get it right on the paper, so this is a term sheet. And you need then to decide wisely which one you want to take. You need to build kind of a team of investors, and this is a very long term. I guess in some countries, your investors will be there longer than your partner if you get married. Wedding in many countries doesn't last that much. So this is maybe a 5 to 7 years, even if more relationship for some of them. And then make a quick decision and go back to work. As I mentioned, this is a pit stop. You just here quickly to bring some fuel in the tank, and then you need to move on. And just to finish, these are some great books you can read, especially venture deals, and some example of blog posts that I recommend to read about fundraising, deck example. There's a lot of resources today online, so whatever you need, if you're pretty good at searching on Google, I guess you will find your answer. There's a lot of things online and in English today. If you search in some Asian language, maybe more challenging, but in English, you will find everything. Thank you.